Just like that, it's almost the end of the week. Hello, everyone. I'm Russ Kane. This is the Midday Show. Sun is shining. There's some blue sky. It's not pouring with rain. And I never have to sit through the film The Joker, Folie à Deux again. So all in all, thank goodness, it's been not a bad day so far. Also recorded a podcast a little bit earlier, which was great. The Walk the Talk, The Hero's Journey with myself and Mark Collin. Episode 61 it was. Anyway, you know him. You love him. He is the man who knows how to get to the front of the queue, get that gin and tonic and back in time. So the moment you take your first sip, you don't hear, ladies and gentlemen, please go back and take your seats. Yeah, our brave, our fearless, our incorruptible, determined doyen of the matinee. Ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Baz, theatre critic.
Oh, it's a while since I've done a matinee, but
yes, I
know. though you clearly Joker Folie à Deux did not go down. How would you compare? Because I'm seeing it tonight.
Oh God, no, you don't really.
How would you compare it with Joker, the original the Joker of a few years ago?
I think. You want me to be honest? It's like comparing Lawrence of Arabia with Confessions of a Window Cleaner.
Oh, okay, fair enough. To be honest, I enjoyed both films.
Okay. I loathed it because what I didn't realize, it's a musical. It's a musical.
Hurrah!
Oh, well, you'll probably love it then. You like seeing all the American standards completely trashed. You'll love it in that case. So let's just say hello to some people before we get on. All the way in northeastern United States of America from New York, Azadon Brown and Robert Van Buren as well. Right, intrepid theatre critic. So, what have you sat through?
So two shows to touch upon, and to be honest, neither of them were a barrel of laughs. Which is why I've just erred on something more lighthearted to get the conversation going.
Okay. No! I got to stop you. I'm going to stop you immediately. If you think Joker, it's nothing about Joker. It's really about a man who is mentally ill, called Arthur Fleck, which was his real name. Watching him disintegrate, it's absolutely so miserable and unremittingly dark.
But that was Joker 1.
No, this is
okay. Look, fair enough. Joker 1 was all about Arthur Fleck's descent into
but no, there's no Joker in it. There's no Joker as such. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, there you go.
I will be suitably popcorned up. I don't go to the cinema a lot. This, of course, is not a cinema slot. That's coming up in a few minutes' time. But since this show and the last, I did sit through a double barrel evening of the Critic. Which had to be seen.
Yes, I want to see that. Absolutely want to see that.
It's good fun. It's a load of bunkum, but it's well acted tosh. And then the Alien movie as well.
Oh God, no.
So that was all right. Quite a nice little tribute to Ian Holm, to be honest. The Alien.
Oh, we
movie.
Like him. We like him a lot.
So it's nice to see him being brought back to life again. I hope Penelope Wilton got a huge stash of cash for letting his likeness be used in the movie.
Oh wow! Okay.
Anyway, shows. First show up, Waiting for Godot. Wake up!
No. I tell you what, I thought you'd go there because, of course, the posters. They've huge posters all over the London Underground for this.
Yep.
With one of my favorite actors and someone I never heard of. But I thought, no, thank you. Not for me, but I'm sure it's brilliant.
Well, and I have to say it is brilliant. It really is a play that you need to have your brain switched on into top gear, which rarely happens for me, to be honest.
No, not for me, thanks.
It's 2.5 hours. It's not easy. You've got Ben Whishaw and Lucien Msamati as these two derelict tramps hanging around in a wasteland with just a tree on stage and some rubble and rocks. And they are, to be honest, the punchline is in the title. They are waiting for Godot. It's been around as a play for some 70 odd years, and Yeah, as I said, it really takes a lot of thinking about, but there's a lot in there to think about. It's a play. You've got these two guys, and the narrative looks at, you know, all these happy subjects: loneliness, codependency, cruelty, abuse. There's also a hint of faith and divinity that flows through the whole thing, particularly with the young lad that pops up towards the end of the first half and the second half. And if you think about the title, Waiting for God, you get a little bit of a hint about one of the angles that Beckett may have been exploring. And as well as these two derelicts on the stage, their monologues interrupted by the arrival of a ghastly chap known as Pozzo, played here by Jonathan Slinger very, very well. And his hapless, unfortunate, never has a character been so deliberately, unfortunately named Lucky, is the chap, his name, played by Tom Eden. Tom Eden is an absolute master of performance, physical comedy, the way he expresses himself. He was most recently seen notably in Crazy for You. And years ago, he was the original guy in One Man, Two Governors.
Oh, was he now?
Had to perform all that horrendous slapstick as a waiter, and did so brilliantly. So, Tom, you do have a fantastic cast. Tom Eden comes along with a really quite mind-blowing monologue towards the end of the first half, in which this poor, abused, beaten man who's forced, you know, to dragged along by a rope, drags his master along by a rope. It's, like I say, it's not an easy night in the theatre, but it certainly is very, very stimulating. And it doesn't come around that often. One can understand why.
Yeah.
But unbelievably, it's extended. I think they've bolted another week onto it. Okay. It's and if you've got an appetite for theatre that will exercise your grey cells, hopefully you'll keep your eyelids propped open. I will true confession.
Not a chance. I would drop off.
I found the first half at times a challenge. I'd not seen the play before, though I'd read it.
Let me ask you this. And it's a serious thing. Are we? All right. I know you well enough. I know you well enough to ask this, right? Are we, me, everybody watching all over the world, here, America, etc., are we supposed to feel stupid and unintelligent and thick asses that we don't get it?
That's it. It's one of these narratives that's there. I mean, when you walk into it, you know that it's a play that's going to ask a lot of you. It's not easy entertainment in the way that some of the other more lovely and accessible bits of drama, Abigail's Party, that I've seen recently, Guys and Dolls. You know what you're going to get. It's gorgeous. Why Am I So Single? Perhaps a little bit more bullshitty, to be honest. It's a huge amount.
It was a lightweight. Here's the thing: I've seen Waiting for God. God knows how many times, right?
Really? God knows how many times.
I've seen it many times, and I've always loathed it. And I've come out thinking, why did I sit through that? I don't get it. I don't understand it. And to be honest, I find it interminably dull and boring. And I just come out thinking, well, that was pointless. But then I think, oh, it must be me because I'm an idiot. I'm not intellectual enough, but I'm not an idiot. And I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy Beckett at all. I don't like anything about it.
And there are people who will abhor musicals and can't bear the show where all of a sudden people burst into song. And there isn't a right and there isn't a wrong. There are people.
Oh no, absolutely right, absolutely. But I always think it's a bit like art, Jonathan. You look at something, you think, well, that's a piece of trash. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
And you say, well, you're not allowed to say that. You're not an artist, but you can go and see a film, eat your popcorn, come out and go, I love that film, or I didn't like that film. That's your opinion. You're entitled to do that. You're the one paying for the ticket.
You're the customer.
What
surprises me though, Russ, is your confession that you've seen Waiting for Godot more than once.
Oh yeah,
because I'm sure you would have found it boring the first time.
I did.
What dragged you back? What dragged you back to see it again?
Who knows the fools and follies of which guide us through life, Jonathan? I don't know. Can't remember. But I made a point of saying to myself, no, never again. Thank you very much.
But actually, and this Waiting for Godot is 2.5 hours. It's got that cracking line that we're born astride a grave, i.e., basically that we're born and our journey is ultimately we're going to end up in the grave. Life is this brief little blip that occurs in between birth and the grave, which is certainly something to ponder. But when you look at some of the great comedy constructs over the years, let's say, for example, Steptoe and Son.
Yeah,
it's structured around two blokes who are condemned to a life together in this dingy shepherd's bush backyard. They're never going to escape it. For all their dreams, for all Harold's plans of romance and whatever, these two blokes are condemned for the life of however long the sitcom is going to run. They ain't leaving that place. Look at Rigsby, that miserable landlord. He ain't leaving that place. Basil and Sybil Fawlty, the most loveless marriage, or one of the most loveless marriages ever penned, similar to George and Mildred. These people living in eternal misery. And I think that Samuel Beckett sort of outlined the dramatic potential of two people in misery. Of course, Beckett made it for 2.5 hours and mega deep philosophical points that you may or may not choose to grasp. The writers of sitcoms had a far, some may say, more difficult challenge. They took these people stuck in lives of misery, chopped it down to 30-minute episodes and made it bloody hilarious as we laugh at people in their misery.
There's a very interesting anecdote about Steptoe and Son, which I guess reflects on Beckett. They had two. It was written by Galton and Simpson, two of my absolute writing heroes of all time, and Ray Galton, Alan Simpson. And they took two actors who had never met, Harry H. Corbett, who was at the Royal Shakespeare Company at the time, and Wilfrid Bramble, who was the opposite of the character he portrayed as the old man Steptoe. Right? And they did the run through of the pilot. There was no laughs. It was awful. And Galton and Simpson were looking at each other thinking, oh my God, this is dying on its ass. And they went over to the two actors and they said, guys, you do know this is a comedy, don't you? And both Harry H. Corbett and Wilfrid Bramble thought it was a serious piece, like Beckett. And they needed to be told by the writers, Galton and Simpson, no, it's a comedy. And of course, that changed the entire dynamic, changed the pacing, changed the way the words were landing, and it blew up into one of the greatest pieces of sort of drama comedy ever been created. But like Beckett, they didn't see that. They saw the bleakness of it.
Yep. And in those sitcoms, we're allowed to laugh at these people in their misery, and they're played for laughs. But certainly the Fawlty's marriage is not a pool of happiness.
And you wonder, I always wonder when you look at Fawlty, you think, why did she decide to marry him? Why?
Yeah, why? I mean, one wonders if John Cleese or Connie Booth would ever publish the backstories.
Yeah,
it's Basil and Sybil.
It's just a fascinating. It's how did they end up in Torquay in this hotel, and how did they end up in this horrendous relationship? It's always fascinating me. Anyway, subtext you say, right, that's Waiting for Godot.
Yes, next up.
Where was it on, by the way? Because everybody saves me getting
on at the Her Majesty's Theatre not Her Majesty's, no, the Theatre Royal Haymarket.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes,
wow.
It's got Her Majesty's, of course, His Majesty's now. Theatre Royal Haymarket, opposite His Majesty's. It is on until I had it at the 14th of December. I think they may have extended it for a week up until Christmas, 21st of December. My understanding is tickets are available for it. If that is your cup of tea, then go, because if it is your cup of tea, you'll find it a very, very stimulating night at
So
the
if
theatre.
you've seen, the question is whether you like, if you like that genre, it's done very well, is what you're
Very
saying.
well. Very
Okay.
well. The four actors are fantastic. Does sound a bit like Paddington, of course, because you've got Ben Whishaw up there on stage. But once you've managed to flush that out of your
Q, of course.
Well, quite indeed, yes. So but he's they're both very good.
I thought he was
Anyway,
excellent. I thought he was excellent at Q because he'd taken on a role that was so iconic with Desmond Llewellyn and then buggered up by John Cleese, to be perfectly honest with you, who played it.
Yeah.
Broad. But Desmond Llewellyn was, fabulous. And you go in and then he reinvented it beautifully. Anyway, that's just my view. I don't act, but that's just punter.
Next up, again, another not a barrel of laughs evening at the theatre is 1984, which started its medium run tour last week in Bath, where playing the most ghastly character in the show, O'Brien, who really is an unpleasant piece of work, is Keith Allen.
He's terrifying.
Yes, and Keith Allen,
hell out of me.
When it comes to playing the sort of word that I would never dream of mentioning on a live broadcast such as this, but it's only a one-syllable word. Keith Allen, really, nobody does it better in the work.
Scary as hell.
As Martin Hablish put to music so brilliantly, nobody does it better than Keith Allen. He did a fabulous Max Clifford last year in a musical called Rehab, a Max Clifford type character. And here he is as O'Brien, who is really drilling in to Winston Smith, who here is played by Mark Quartley. Winston Smith, who works at the Ministry of Information? I forget where.
Don't know.
Where it is that Winston Smith works.
I found real life depressing enough without that.
In this ghastly world that is in fact, and what did I say? What was my opening paragraph for this review? In our world today, with its visibly two-tiered criminal justice system, where citizens are imprisoned for the crime of having expressed their opinions, while at the same time a notoriously shamed paedophile who's convicted of viewing pornographic images of the most depraved child abuse can escape a custodial sentence.
No names.
It feels like a revisiting of George Orwell's 1984 is long overdue.
Right.
And when
the key to that is, Jonathan, people have put it up and I've seen it many, many times. Could you please remember that George Orwell was not an instruction manual? 1984 was a work of fiction, not an instruction. We're living it. Living it.
And when you look at how
right,
our
Susie,
language,
by the way, absolutely, Susie, I agree.
Our language is being tinkered with, and some
completely.
words are being expunged from our vocabulary or demonized. Other words are being brought in, and you only have to look at what Orwell invented, which was the concept of newspeak, where they were revising the dictionary, frequently. And in the course of the play, it goes from version 10 to version 12 of newspeak. It is bleak. It is unpleasant. I have to say, it's very, very well performed. It's not an easy night at the theatre. Lindsay Posner directs.
Good.
And directs really, really well. It's exciting. There's a lot of video cameras projected on, with projections being shown on stage. So you get the feeling of, when you get the kids today who are watching Big Brother on the TV show, or Celebrity Big Brother or whatever, which of course is all a big laugh reality show. Ha ha ha. No one, the real roots of the sinisterness of where the Big Brother phrase comes from is, I think, has been lost on that generation. Well, not lost, but it
has been lost.
Yeah,
there has been lost because they don't see it as a social. Have I got time to tell you my anecdote? This is why I'm not a multimillionaire and my school friend is. So Peter Bazalgette, now Sir Peter Bazalgette, one of the most influential television producers of all time, right? So I've known Baz since we were.
And he pops up in your novel, The Gatekeeper, And
Yes, he does.
I have very sneakily appropriated him as for me, thinking that was my nod
I used to
in
think
the
it was you.
Gatekeeper, even though we hadn't met back in those days.
No,
Russ.
well, I
That's neither
didn't.
here,
I
neither
no,
here nor there.
Susie, if I was a multimillionaire, would it make a difference to our romantic life together? Yeah. Why are we friends? That's Susie Kennedy, who's a brilliant actress and a dear friend and a wonderful person to both Jonathan and myself. Anyway, cutting to the chase. So Peter Basil and I have known each other since we were 9 years old. 9, right? So we have lunch. And he's looking a bit tense over this lunch. Right. And I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Well, I've got a presentation after lunch. I'm presenting a new program." And he always used to tell me his programs, all the gardening and the cooking, and all of those were his ideas on the back of an envelope. He's the guy's a genius. I said, "Well, okay, what's the program? Pitch it." So we're sitting having a nice lunch, and he tells me this story, and I go, "Baz, look, that's the biggest load of shit I've ever heard in my life. That's just awful, awful." And he goes, "White." I said, "What's the matter?" Well, I bought it last week. I bought the rights from Holland. I bought the show. I said, "Look, for God's sake, you've had every hit show imaginable. You're bound to have one that doesn't hit the mark." Anyway, off he went. The show, of course, was Big Brother, which shows what I know and shows what Baz, he saw it. He got it instantly. And to this day, I don't understand it. I can't watch 10 seconds of it. I can't. But it shows you the genius of Peter Bazalgette and the ludicrousy of it.
And of course, his granddad built the Victoria.
Great grandfather. His great grandfather was Sir Joseph Bazalgette, who built all the sewers for London.
Yeah,
I'm thoroughly enjoying reading 1984 by George Orwell. Well, we're living it here in London and the UK at the moment. We're living 1984, Asa. Unbelievable. And Susie Kennedy asked Serena, "Why are we friends?" "'Cause you're gorgeous." The end. And you're a lovely person inside and out. The end.
Right, I'm struggling to think of a Marilyn Monroe quote or songline, and I can't. My mind has gone a complete blank.
Yeah. Yeah, she's never wanted to do that Tony Curtis, I know, the kissing, "No, I feel nothing." He never wanted to do it. I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Right, so 1984. I would imagine with Keith Allen, it's like... Because he is. Just looking at him terrifies me.
Yeah, he really is. He's unpleasant.
Yeah, and I mean, as an actor, not as a human being. I've no idea.
I can't comment on here. I can't comment.
I don't know.
Interestingly, on press night, I went with an actor friend of mine who I suspected, and the actor friend confirmed, Keith Allen did in fact dry on a couple of occasions.
Oh, wow.
But pulled himself out of his tailspin with great aplomb. But he was not at his best.
Okay.
I would hope that as the run, because I saw it in Bath, and my spies tell me it's going on to Malvern, which is probably where it is this week. Poole, Guildford, Cambridge, Brighton, Richmond is the closest it gets. Richmond, as in Greater London.
Yeah.
That's the closest it gets to London, and then Liverpool. It is, it was a fabulous night at the theatre.
And did you sit there, Jonathan? And this is the kind of, I think I can almost guess the answer and say, "My God, how prescient was George Orwell?" How, and the irony, forgive me, but the irony is outside the BBC is a statue of George Orwell. You couldn't make that irony up.
Yeah. It's and the horror that's in the story as well, as Winston Smith is forced to confront what his worst fears are, all portrayed. There is gruesomeness on stage, I have to say, and again, that's if you're able to tolerate a little bit of on-stage horror, they do it extremely well. It's we're not yet at the point in our society of electro shocking people for thinking the wrong way. But we are
cancelling. It's called cancelling.
We are cancelling people. We
are cancelling. We're making sure they never work again. We are vilifying them. It's the equivalent of people could say, no, it's not physical. Kind of is.
And we're imprisoning
people.
We're
And you're
imprisoning
imprisoning people.
who make
Walk
statements.
down the street with a machete, doesn't seem to be a problem. Say
Indeed.
something that people don't agree with, you're going to get banged up for 3 years. Unbelievable.
Quite. So it's a play that is extremely relevant for our times, and in most of the Western nations. And these people do it extremely well. And Keith Allen really is an unpleasant piece of work.
I remember Keith many years ago when I was a young man, and I was once. I was watching a BBC. You remember they used to have those interminable late night discussions, and the studio was very dark, and they'd all be sitting there intensely over. I think they were even smoking back in those days around a table, and it was all very important. It wasn't important; I thought it was all bollocks, but anyway, it looked like it was very important. And Keith Allen lost his temper, and he stood up, and I didn't know who this guy was. It was a young guy called Keith Allen. And he stood up and he started berating the other guests and then berating the producer. I'd never forgotten it. For me, it was like, oh my God, that is where I want to be. I would love to be that brave. Stand up and tell them exactly what you think of them. It was incredible. I've never forgotten that.
And he channels that. He channels that into his characters. He's he's an extremely good performer. Fair to say, there's opposite Mark Courtley, who's playing Winston Smith, who's Eleanor Wilde, who plays his love interest Julia, and you've got the whole tragedy as you know, they realize as the play evolves that their whole love affair has been spied on by Big Brother. She deals with that and delivers again a very touching. You feel for her. There's a lot of sadness there. We ultimately realize that they've both betrayed each other in this ghastly horror story of a narrative. But like I say, it's a very lovely interpretation of a horrifically realistic narrative.
And I still, to this day, and it's a theme I come back to in the podcast and in the broadcast and in my writing, I don't understand how we got where we are. I truly don't. It is mystifying and terrifying in equal measure. It's extraordinary.
And I agree with you, Russ. I think it is decades of dissent that both of the leading political parties have contributed, have enabled. You can't heap the blame at the Labour Party, though they're certainly making a right old pig's ear of things in the last 3 months. Not that one had high hopes, but I don't think we had expected them to go as low as they're going. But
we haven't touched the sides yet.
Yep, indeed.
The sides, wait till the budget.
Yeah, yes, quite.
There'll be a queue at the airport. Is that it? Two thought-provoking plays.
No laughs this week.
It's just the mirror of my life. It's amazing. Waiting for Russo. That's what we're going to call it. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much.
But happily, I will be back next week rather than in 2 weeks' time.
What's that you say? What's that you say?
With some bits of it will be more light-hearted. Other bits will be also a little bit bleak and grim. Because yes, traveling is going to interfere with my schedule for the next few weeks. So I'm shifting. I'm moving my cycle.
Please tell me that was the word shifting you just said.
I couldn't possibly comment.
Couldn't possibly comment on that. Listen, Jonathan, thank you so much. As
Indeed.
ever, I love
Thank
it.
you.
Just tell it like it is, and you don't dress it up. I love all that. Jonathan Baz, our fabulous theatre critic.
Thank you.
Until we meet next week. Bye. Isn't he great? I love Jonathan Baz. He's a terrific. The thing about you don't know, he's a terrific bloke as well. He's a really interesting companion. Spend time with. He's a very nice man. Speaking of interesting companions, speaking of the pulchritudinous of painting, speaking of bringing beauty into art, or is the art itself beauty? She is the Duchess of Dulux. I was bloody careful when I said that, by the way. That could have gone horribly wrong. I just realised I don't know if I'm brave or just bonkers. One of the two. Ladies and gentlemen, you know her. You adore her. Frankly, who doesn't? Chantal Rickards OBE.
I love the
God
Duchess
damn.
of Dulux.
I know. I don't know how I thought of that. I wish I hadn't.
Very
But anyway,
good.
there we are. It's going to haunt me now. That picture will remain. The picture you sent of you painting will remain. I looked at it and I had to keep blowing up, going, "Who the hell? Oh my God! Look who it really is."
Me
That
in a
was some
hairnet.
photo. You in a hairnet. I'm never gonna unsee that. Now you sent it to me. Ever. A plastic kind of hairnet and yeah. Wow.
Well, there we are.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had the Dulux week from hell, frankly.
Is this still your kids? This is your kids' new home, right?
This is my kids' new home, and I am painting it as fast as I possibly can to get them out of my house.
Well, yeah, obviously, are they? Let's ask the question that every parent at this point is saying: are they helping at all?
They are helping when they're not at work, but they've got full-time jobs. And because my diary is sort of, a little bit here, a bit there, but so I'm the painting between all of my other commitments.
This is very good. Philip Harling. Philip, this is a great gag. Duchess of Dulux. Every time I see her, I'm overcome with emulsion. Philip! Boom!
Very good.
Boom! Comment of the day so far. I absolutely love it. And Azadon Brown, going back to 1984, which haunts us, all of us. Azadon Brown is watching live in America. Per your earlier comment, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Darn tootin'. Darn tootin'. And I think you're in for a very rough ride after November 7th over there in the States. I worry about my family, but I do. I think you're going to be in for a rough ride for a while. Then it'll settle down as all these things do. Okay, we will. Right. Can I kick off with something?
Oh, yes, please.
Can I?
You didn't tell me about the penguin. Not the penguin. You didn't tell me
Joker.
about
on Thursday, I was invited, which was very nice. I was kindly invited to go to the media screening, the press screening in Leicester Square, the cesspit of London, as it's known, as I call it, to the first screening of Joker Folie à Deux. That's your actual French. And it was on IMAX, so thank God I didn't bother to take my long-distance glasses because I would have been blind. Absolutely heaving, wasn't a seat to be had. I didn't know it was a musical. I had no idea. Why would I think they'd make the Joker film a musical?
Since when did it become a musical? I mean, I
it's a musical. I thought a joke. I'm serious.
Either.
It's a musical.
Okay. And is
so
it
the
sort
first
of
time the music
and gay or not?
Say that again.
I said, is it light-hearted and gay, as one would expect from a musical?
It's about as light-hearted as Hiroshima. I mean, no, it's awful. It is. My problem with it was, and some people say it's a work of art. It's absolutely genius. I thought it was 2.5 hours of interminable dullness.
Oh,
but
no.
The problem with it, and you construct stories, you critique stories, you've seen thousands and thousands of scripts. And you always say, where's the jeopardy? It's the one thing you always say to me. And you have 3 acts normally. And normally you have a protagonist who you're rooting for. Silly example, you're rooting for James Bond or whatever it might be. So the one person you will, you want to come through. It is so unremittingly dark and bleak. There is no one that you can say, yeah, I want that to work out for so-and-so.
Oh dear.
Everybody's horrible.
Yeah.
And there's no Jokerish. You're coming out of Heath Ledger's genius, right? And then the first Joker film was really good. I thought Joaquin Phoenix was sensational.
Yeah.
Sensational.
He was.
But there's no Joker in this, really. It is about Arthur Fleck, a man who is clearly very mentally ill. And the woman played by Lady Gaga, who's needs a lot of mental help. And it's so utterly depressingly dark. And I came out after 2.5 hours. It's so bleak. And I thought, what was the point? In other words, what were they trying to say?
Yeah.
I didn't get it because it wasn't. It wasn't an adventure. There's no adventure.
But it sounds as though it wasn't entertainment. I mean, it wasn't entertaining even.
No. I understand, and we've seen it a million times, where you've got like scenes of violence. Like if you think of some of the mafia films, you have great scenes of violence and they have beautiful classical music over it. So people are getting shot or stabbed or blown up, and there's beautiful music underneath. It's a counterpoint. I totally get that.
Yeah.
So if you do it once in a film, okay. So they're taking all the American standards that you know and love, that's entertainment and all these make them laugh and all these things. You use it once as a counterpoint, get it, right? But constantly, it's just like, I don't understand I don't understand what I'm watching here. I just didn't understand it at all.
Oh dear.
It was very depressing. Horribly depressing. It was horribly depressing.
You better check the reviews before you go
Oh no,
out
it's very interesting. It was shown. I was discussing it with Colin Vaines, the film producer, and he said to me that it got very mixed reviews. I think in when it was first shown, and of course some of the reviews are this is terrible, and other reviews it's a work of art, it's a genius. It's
Oh
genius.
really?
I have no idea. I don't make films,
right.
But as a punter. Not to say that Joaquin Phoenix wasn't great, not to say Lady Gaga wasn't great, and Brendan Gleeson. Have I got his name right? Brendan Gleeson is terrific, marvelous.
Yes,
he plays a guard. He's about the only person I can remember.
Yeah, exactly.
He was. Is it Brendan Gleeson? I hope it is.
No,
anyway, there you go. That's the Joker. If you think that it's an adventure film or anything to do with Batman, forget it. Nothing at all. Nothing. It's just weird. I didn't get the point of it.
I'm sorry, it sounds like it was a bit of a failure of an evening for you.
Well, I enjoyed the popcorn.
Well, there you are. You've got free popcorn.
I got free popcorn, and I have to say, I haven't been to IMAX for a long time, and the sound quality was magnificent.
It's a great experience.
And the way you see the film is incredible. Takes it to a totally different level. But I'd kind of Apart from that, Grant. Apart from that, it was okay. Yeah. Apart from that, it was okay. Look, other people will probably absolutely love it and think this is so clever. I didn't get it. That's just me. I'm being honest about it. What have you seen that's great?
Well, I've had a sort of bit of a show busy week because on Tuesday night it was the BFI's big fundraiser gala, which is called Luminous. And there were indeed a few luminaries there.
See what you did. That was good. Where was it held so we can all be jealous? Go on.
It was at the Roundhouse.
I'm not jealous.
And in Camden Town.
I'm not jealous. It's all scandal.
No. And it was black tie and a red carpet, which I avoided.
It's right by Morrison's. You probably came straight from your shopping at Morrison's and walked straight to the Roundhouse. You see, that's it. It's a London gag for you. Okay.
No, I went on the tube and I came back on the tube, and
God, you're brave. Jesus.
Lots of smart people turning up in smart cars, including Hugh Grant, Richard Gadd, Baby Reindeer, Tilda Swinton was there, Richard E. Grant was there.
She scares me.
Felicity Jones was there. Yep, Daisy Edgar Jones was there. It was a fun evening, but I've done 2 fundraisers this week, sort of back to back. So I'm feeling a bit broke because I always go for the raffle tickets. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Look, you won some flowers. They're behind you.
I did get some flowers, which was lovely. In fact, the one time I did win a raffle, I won the top prize at the first fundraiser I went to in Hollywood when I had just been granted, as it were, the job of chief executive of BAFTA. And I was sort of on show. It was my first sort of big event and people knew who I was. And it was very, very early on in my first couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks there. And they pulled out the top raffle prize, which was a £32,000 round the world first class ticket on I can't remember who. And of course, by that stage, I was the new girl in town who was running a charity. And of course, even as I walked to the stage to take the ticket, I knew I was going to have to
give it back.
Yeah. And I thought, what luck. You know, it could have been a packet of Rolos or something, and I wouldn't have minded so much.
Yeah.
But
A bottle of wine, ticket number 13. And could the Ford Capri please move? You're blocking the car park. Don't get that in Hollywood.
In fact, I didn't actually give it back. I said thank you, but I am now donating this to BAFTA to raise funds for BAFTA. So,
you mug.
BAFTA, I know, but there we are. It had to be done. It had to be done. But anyway,
32 grand. Wow.
It was a fun evening. And then very briefly, the second fundraiser I went to, which was last night, I was up again late last night, was for an Irish charity called Cooperation Ireland. And no stars at all, absolutely fine. Lots of Irish business people. So it was a community of people I really didn't know at all. But the really interesting thing was I saw a drag queen called Panty Bliss giving a speech. She, in drag, it is a man called Richard, I can't think of his surname, but Panty Bliss is the name of the drag artist, gave a speech for half an hour, which was exceptional. So articulate, so cleverly crafted. I mean, I hear so many speeches and I listen to people giving speeches all the time. And this fabulous act gave this speech completely and utterly off the cuff, and I was absolutely blown away by it. It was very much about progressive Ireland and where Ireland is now, and the history of gay Ireland. Quite exceptional. I mean, if you ever get the chance to hear Panty Bliss giving a speech, go. Honestly, it was the best thing I experienced all week. Anyway, that's just an aside.
There's a gag there. I'm so not going there. I was so tempted. The door opened, and I thought, no, Russie.
No,
don't walk through it. Don't walk through it. Resist.
No. Yeah, she spoke from the heart, and it was incredibly genuine, and it put the sort of progressive face of Ireland up front and centre. And I came away feeling better about Ireland, the country, purely because of this extraordinary speech. Anyway, enough of that. So that was my week. But obviously, I've been doing lots of TV and film watching too. It's the back
question for you. This drag artist giving clearly a very mature, sensible, well-crafted speech.
Yeah.
Was it done? This is not a joke. I'm asking.
Yeah.
Was it done in whoever this guy is? Normal voice, or was it done with this overinflated sort of drag queen?
No, well, that's an interesting question. As the character, so I know from having met a lot of the people in the gay pride scene in Hollywood, where it is a big thing, that always when you refer to drag artists, you refer to them as she, even though generally they are men under the makeup.
They're men wearing frocks, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she gave her speech as the artist. What he, the person underneath is like, I have no idea. But clearly there is somebody with great wit, great articulation, and a really deep thinker, which just absolutely blew me away because I absolutely didn't expect it. It's fascinating. So,
Good.
Yeah. Anyway, there we are.
Good. Excellent.
So lots to watch on film and telly at the moment. I found, I think it's going to become one of my sort of secret.
Got my notebook.
Not so secret. I think you'll like it, actually. It's an Australian drama. I had never heard of it before. In Australia, it was, when it first came out, the most watched drama in Australia. And I came across it quite by accident. In Australia, it was called Dr. Doctor. Over here, it's been retitled The Heart Guy. And as my brother was a cardiologist, I thought, I'll just click into this and I'll see what this is all about. And it's actually very good. There are 5 seasons of it. It's just appeared on the U network, so U Drama. This has just appeared on the U network. The full 5 seasons, Australian drama. The story to it is that he's a rather sort of hedonistic, rather pleased with himself cardiac surgeon based in Sydney. But actually, it all goes wrong. He is a drug taker. He's a drinker. He's not terribly nice to women. Drop dead good looking. But actually, it all goes horribly wrong when the authorities say to him, "Actually, fella, your time is up. We are not going to let you practice for the next year. We're sending you back to your hometown where you're going to be a country doctor for a year." So
yes, that old ruse.
Yeah. So exactly, that's all. So he arrives back deeply grumpy about having to be forced back to the family home and to be doing work as a country GP, and of course, when he's been a cardiac surgeon for the previous 20 years. So the conceit is quite fun, but it isn't completely obvious. It's got a really, really good script, very good cast of characters, and it often just sort of, it becomes something that you don't think it's going to be. So it's not just a sort of hospital drama. It's actually much more clever than that. Family drama, the family dynamics play out. It's just beautifully written. Often it's laugh out loud, which is great. So it's quite lighthearted. But there are sort of interesting things going on along the way. I've watched the first 5, and I think it's going to be something I'm going to have to sort of rattle through the entire 5 series. Because I think it's a delightful series. It's not something that is, sort of head-thumpingly difficult to get into.
Thank God for
and
that.
I think it's just something that fits the bill.
A heart guy. Now that's on You, which used to be called Drama and everything else, but it's just the letter U, and it's got everything. It's my favorite channel. Good day, Graham, you're an idiot. Do you like, this is not a silly question because I'm leading into something that I watched that was, I thought, extraordinary.
Yes.
And that was this. Did you ever like American wrestling, the big American? It's a kind of yes or no type of thing.
Fun enough, I did go to WWF a couple of times with my kids who were absolutely major fans of it. Major fans. Yeah. And I went to the O2 twice, I think. I met the WWF people out in Cannes at one of the television festivals, where they always had the biggest stands. They, put on the biggest sort of event show, and they were always handing out tickets to things. So I was lucky enough to be invited along. So I thought, right, I'll take the kids.
Lovely. One of my favorite memories was watching American wrestling, because we only had, Kent Walton, Welcome to the Walthamstow Town Hall. It was, ridiculous. And then this came along, and it was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? They're filling up gigantic stadiums with, 70, 80, 90,000 people. And one of my favorite things was watching it with my dad. We both used to love it. And then when my kids came along, there were 3 generations. It was me, my dad, and the kids, and we all loved watching American wrestling. So I've grown up with this since the early 80s. Yeah. And it was created, WWF got sued by the World Wildlife Fund, and they had to change it to WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, because the World Wildlife Fund sued them, and they had got that moniker before. And it was created by a man called Vince McMahon, as you all know, Chantal. Vince McMahon, the business was started by Vince McMahon Sr. and Vince McMahon Jr. Vincent Kennedy McMahon, as we know, bought the company from his dad. And this is on Netflix. It's a 6-part series, which I binge watched in 2 nights with my jaw. Because
I've only watched the first episode. I've watched the first episode.
God, I live and breathe these characters because I kind of grew up with them as my kids did, and my dad did, and all the rest of it. And I thought I knew the story. Holy God.
Yeah.
It's rough viewing, and it's an insight into what makes a man into Vince McMahon, what makes somebody from his childhood become this person, this driven. So on a psychological level, it's incredible. From a business level, it's brutal. It was fascinating. It's just simply called Mr. McMahon, which was the character, the heel that he created as part of the show. It's
Because
six
he was
parts.
the voiceover guy for his dad, wasn't he, originally? His
Initially, he
dad
was an announcer.
really
Yeah, he
believed in
was
him.
just an announcer. He was just a gopher,
Yeah.
an announcer, and he and his father did. His father never met him for the first 12 years, and it's never explained where Vince McMahon Senior was. Why didn't he meet his son for the first 12 years?
Don't know.
And
Don't
it's
know.
really, you talk about family dynamics and Shakespearean. It's really about somebody looking for the love of their father and for the affirmation of their father, which so many of
Yeah.
us sadly can relate to, and so many of us never got. Hello. So some of it really hit, and then you think, and it created a monster. The guy is a monster, but a genius. He sold
And they
the
were
company.
unbelievably well connected. They knew everybody. It's a really big thing. I don't know if it is still now, but
yes, because
still a
it is
major hero.
It's huge because what they did is they sold it to a company who controls for God's sake, not martial arts, the Dana White company, mixed martial arts and all of that stuff. That's huge. And they sold it to this company for over $9 billion. Over $9 billion. So this one holding company has Dana White's company, and the Vince McMahon, for reasons I won't spoil, had to step down. And it's run by his daughter, Stephanie, and by Paul Levesque, otherwise known as Triple H. Anyway, it's the most fantastic documentary.
So not Mick McManus then.
Not even Steve Logan or Jackie TV Pallo or Billy Two Rivers. Jackie Pallo. And you see these guys and you think, geez, and then they turn them into these steroid-driven superstars. And it's a fascinating documentary. Even if you
I will persevere with it.
It's nasty.
Yeah, it's nasty. Okay, 6 parts called Mr. McMahon, and it's on Netflix.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, I will watch more. I did see the first episode last week, but I'll go back and see some more. Anyway, I'm going to give you something slightly more different. It's a true crime series, a 6-parter on ITV called Joan. Have you caught up with that?
No, boy, are they pushing that? Are they pushing that advert? The adverts all the time, aren't they?
And it's good. It's very well made. It's a true story about a woman who became, they call her the godmother. She was the most well-known and most accomplished jewel thief in the 1980s. Who knew? I'd never heard of this woman before.
I've never heard. I didn't know it was true.
Absolutely, called Joan Hamilton. And actually,
it's a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story. Absolutely amazing, but very beautifully played. She had lots and lots of different guises. So actually, the actress comes on, Sophie Turner comes on and is, she looks like one person, then she looks like another, then she looks like another. You get her backstory very quickly. At 17, she had a child, and that is the motivator that runs through the whole thing, is that she is trying to make a better life for her daughter, who in fact is taken into care, and she is desperate to get this little girl back. The Joan herself, I grew up in a fairly awful family surrounding as a young child herself. And there's a horrible scene where you see her taking her clothes off at the beginning, and her back is scarred, which obviously tells you as much as you need to know about her own personal background.
You need to know much more.
But anyway,
about that.
she became this extraordinary, accomplished jewel thief. And I'm not going to tell you what happened at the end, because I had to look it up. I just was desperate to find out. I've only watched the first 2 episodes, but it looks very authentic London 1985 with the shoulder pads and the hair and the big gold earrings and all of that.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And the script is good, and the bad characters are really, really bad. But she plays it really well. And she goes from one sort of glamorous blonde character to dynamic redhead to, and back to something else, and then they go off and meet lots of criminals in Spain. But it's a really good yarn, actually. And ITV have done very well. It's a 6-parter, and they are pushing it like crazy. I think she might be nominated for an award for it, actually, because she does extremely well, Sophie Turner, in this.
Am
So
I
it's
going
worth
round the
having a
bend?
look at.
Chantal, was she in Game of Thrones, or am I making that up?
She was in Game of Thrones, yep. And she was married to
right.
one of the Jonas brothers, if that means anything to you.
That's right. Yes, she was married to Nick Jonas, I believe. That's right. Yes.
She was indeed. But I mean, it feels like this is a part that has come at the right age for her. She's really maturing as an actress. And I think she plays it jolly well. So
I really liked her in Game of Thrones. I just remembered the name, and then I saw that she'd married, I don't know, it came up on a feed. But I don't think they're together anymore. I think that all went south.
No, well, I think you're right. Well, you are keeping up with your showbiz gossip. Yes, I think they have just divorced, or just, yeah.
Well, I get all these feeds, ridiculous feeds. I go, I don't know who these people are that I'm supposed to be upset or excited about. I have no idea. I've never heard of them. So and so's got engaged. Oh, great. Good for them. Who are they? I spend my days. Welcome to my. So Joan on ITV. Yeah, why are they? As a senior TV executive, why they have pushing this like every ad break? There's another promo for this Joan thing.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind that? We've got to push this, or it's a great show, or why?
Well, normally the press office will work out which are the ones that are going to be the real bangers throughout the year, and they will put an enormous amount of marketing spend behind it. And obviously the marketing spend can be a lot of cross-channel promotions, so that they'll use all their own channels to promote it. And here, I think, in fact, I've seen it on bus sides, and I've seen it on posters.
Everywhere, isn't it?
They've gone to town on it.
They really
so
they believe in it. Obviously, they obviously hugely believe in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good for them. Good for them. Yeah. And it's nice to see.
They don't get that sort of thing wrong. The marketing teams really know what's good and what needs promoting, and this is the one for the autumn. So I think it'll probably do very well.
That's good. Before we wind up, we've got a little more time. Have you seen Philip Schofield on an island? I haven't, by the way.
Not yet. I just wasn't sure I could cope with it, to be honest. And I just thought, am I watching it because I'm being prurient? And do I really want to see it?
There you go. I tell you, my TV highlight of the week, it just happened to come up on a feed. And I think, what channel is Eamon Holmes on? Is it GB News? I never
GB News. Yeah, GB News in the morning.
Right. Eamon Holmes, who was vitriolic about and leading the charge against Philip Schofield. They obviously loathe each other. Indeed. And I don't know on there. And so the lady who is co-hosting this show with Eamon Holmes says something about that, expecting Eamon to just back down a little bit. You know, he went for Schofield's throat. And I sat there. It was only a little clip. I think it came up on one of my Twitter feeds. And I was like, holy God, what did he do? Why do you hate this guy so badly? Eamon, not only did he not back down or, ameliorate in any way, soften, he doubled down. He doubled down. It was like, wowza. I thought you really hate it. I don't know what the deal. I don't know what the deal is. I have no idea. I've never met Philip Schofield. I don't know him at all. But that's very kind coming in from America. Thank you, Hazel Don Brown. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend in the States. It was like wow. It was horrid.
Astonishing. Okay, well, I don't think that Philip Schofield's whatever it is, banished to an island castaway thing is on my list for weekend viewing. Not for me.
Because you've touched on a really human point. Are you watching it to be entertained, or are you watching it to go, ha ha ha? There you are. Look at you. You're stuck in the middle of bloody nowhere. Nobby no mates. I feel uncomfortable with it, to be honest with you. I'm not my cup of tea at all.
Well, I mean, I'm interested in a way that he's trying to rehabilitate himself in a very safe environment for him. He's not doing a sort of, you know, he's not on a Love Island thing with other people or criticize him. He's not in the jungle where people could challenge him. This is a very controlled environment where he can say what he wants without being challenged. So it's quite a high profile, high risk thing to do, to say, I want to be back on television and here I am, good or ill. But do we want him back on telly? I don't know.
Well, I don't care. Can I be honest? You know, with the great thing, I don't care. I'm as my view is this, and I'm not being rude. I'm as interested in his career as he's ever been interested in my life or anything to do with it. He couldn't give a monkey's. So I don't care. You know, it's irrelevant. It's honestly irrelevant to me because I have a wonderful thing. It's called a remote control, and I can watch what the heck I want when I want, and I don't have to sit there moaning and complaining. Just don't watch it. But he was the consummate. If you put everything to one side, if you can, was exceptionally good at his job. No ifs or buts. He was very good. He was a consummate professional.
But this is a PR stunt, and so we're being used. Yeah,
we are being dragged in and being utilized. Yeah, totally.
We are.
So. Well, if it is a PR stunt and if he wants to be a reformed character, well, that is one hell of a long journey ahead. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
because there's certain things which people are very, very uncomfortable about and don't like, and that is pretty much the top of the list.
Yeah, I can't see him having a 6-part showbiz series on ITV anytime soon.
I don't think people. I honestly, people will go. There's a million people out there. Choose somebody else. You don't need to do this any more than I am. And I will say it, that I ever want to see Hugh Edwards on a television screen ever again for the rest of his life. Ever.
No.
It's indefensible.
It's
indefensible.
Well, it's inappropriate. Yeah. Yeah.
Jumping a queue, Chantal, is inappropriate behavior. That is disgusting behavior, and there's no excuse for it. And it was shocking.
No, what I meant was it's inappropriate to have him back on telly, not his behavior.
Absolutely.
His behavior was awful.
But you know, the thing is, we live in the real world, you and I, and what message does it send out? It sends out, do what the hell you like. There's no repercussions for it. It's not acceptable. Not acceptable.
No, exactly.
Chantal,
no.
Good luck with all your painting. Good luck with your painting. That picture of you in the hairnet is going to stay in my mind forever. Yeah. I see you
not to be seen by anybody else. Do not share it.
No, I swear to God, you have my absolute word. I promise you. Never, ever, ever. I promise. Yay! All right, and there's my pension all in one. Chantal, thank you so much.
Have a happy weekend, everyone.
God willing, we will see you next week. She is just the absolute best. I love her. Chantal Rickards. And her recommendations are always on point. And everyone says to me when they run into me in the street or they're having a coffee and they want to go, oh, please thank Chantal. I love that show she suggested. She's great. Anyway, that is it for another very, very busy week. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Don't get arrested for any, for wrong thinking. Mustn't do that. And all being well with the fair wind, I will be back with great guests coming up on Monday. Great guest coming up with myself, Neil Longy Long, and the gang. Until then, stay out of trouble. Bye-bye, everyone.